Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Satisfactory 1.1. Been waiting a while for this one, and looking forward to being able to produce or put in all the great new features. I've got a bit of a change to the welcome page, which is awesome. So this being my first video with commentary, I'm going to give an update to how things have been progressing or what has been done over the past 67 episodes, given a sort of a verbal overview, thought patterns and such. Also, I'm going to cover up a few concepts such as the pod design, which I've been working on for a while for mining. That one should be interesting. And then where I'm going to be going with the current power factory build that's been going on with the compacted coal, and get into a few of the features that have changed with 1.1 as we progress. One of the biggest features I'm looking forward to is the lifts, so that's going to save a little bit of pain in terms of getting up and down my factories. I hate running around up, getting all dizzy and that, so that should be fun. And yeah. So let's get into it. So to start, we've got a few mods that have been removed and added. So one of the big ones I've added is the 150 inventory slots. This is going to help me with the builds coming up, so I don't have to run up and down so much. So quality of life more than anything else. There are two mods that I've dropped. One is the efficiency checker, purely because it's not currently supported with 1.1, and I'm actually not using it at the moment. So I may implement it again down the road, but we've also got the lines, the new feature within 1.1 that I can actually manage or monitor the throughput on the belts. So we'll see how that works out. And then the other one that I've removed is the infinite nudge, as that seems to be, apparently according to the release notes, that has now been unlocked, and there is no limitation on nudge, as well as being able to vertically nudge, which is going to be fantastic. So less mods, less overhead, let's hope things work out nicely. So without further ado, let's get into it. Episode 68. Welcome. So here we are. That's our beautiful coal power station, which is due for a massive upgrade, which I'll get into shortly. Here we've got our hub with our blueprint, Mark 1 blueprint designer. Our main hub also consists of our startup, cold start power plant with our biomass burners. It's currently pretty much inactive, although it is powered on, connected. It's not actually producing anything, as our coal factory is covering all the needs of our coal factory at this point in time. I'm quite proud of my design here, although it might change in the future. Who knows? We'll see how it goes, but for now, this is home. I will be doing some unlocks because there's a lot of things that I want to get rid of out of my to-do list, and then I want to work out exactly what I need to do the upgrade to the power plant. It's my basic little Fixmas factory here. Nothing special. There is no access to each individual floor, purely because this was supposed to be a build and set and forget, which it pretty much is. I've since discovered that our trees no longer produce any gifts, so I suppose that'll be ready for Fixmas this year. We've got our concrete coming from that side, as well as some iron ore and coal and quaterium and copper, all coming from various miners around the place to our starter factory. This is a rebuild we did several episodes ago, over several episodes. It produces the majority of what I need on a day-to-day basis. and will be needing quite extensively in the coming upgrade of the power plant. As you would have seen in previous episodes, I have sky-high belts running from all over the place. These will actually be replaced pretty soon. Well, most of it will be replaced. I've still got some Caterium coming over from roughly this side over here, I think it is. Don't think we'll be able to see the... Ooh, the new photo mode is cool. I think it's actually over there. There it is there. That's our Caterium coming from there. A single line of Caterium. And we've got coal and I think some sulfur coming from that side as well. Pretty much floating in midair. All of this is going to be yanked out and replaced. And I'll cover that when I get to the pod design shortly. I don't think there's much else to discuss in this region of things. Everything else that's been going on has pretty much been centered around the coal power plant. So let's get on over there. Whoops. Alright. So currently the coal power plant is producing roughly around 4,000 megawatts of power. It's carrying the load of the entire build at this point in time, although there's not much of a build going on. We've got our Christmas factory, Fixmas factory, which is pretty much shut down, and it's covering our starter factory, and then obviously the miners related to it and the coal that's coming into here. Our current build allows for a total production of 10.5 gigawatts or 10,500 megawatts. There are still 6 belts of sulfur outstanding to be provided to this build to get it to that level, but that is all set to change. So the new pods that I'm going to be implementing, the mining pods, is something I've been working on for a little while now. Actually, let's see if I can get into a less noisy location. Alright, so this current infrastructure, each of these sections consist of 6 assemblers, providing 3 lines of coal down through to the 3 sets of 7 generators. Each assembler is configured to produce 23.81 items per minute, or just over 95.2% output, to produce a nice balanced layout to the 3 lines to provide the perfect balance to each of the generator sets. The 7th generator in each set is at a 50 megawatt production rate, or 66.6667% output, so that essentially all these assemblers and their 7 lines are consuming 1,000 sulfur and 1,000 coal items per minute, producing to produce 1,000 compacted coal per minute. Like I said, that's not the output of the current base state because of the simple fact that we are still short about 6 lines of sulfur. So the production is very limited, and all these are working at obviously a very inefficient rate at the moment, but that's still to be sorted out. So the future plan for everything here is these will be upgraded. These current sets will remain intact, and they will be accompanied with another 10 lines. And I'll get into the reasons why, and how the pods will affect things just now, and I'll get into Satisfactory Modeler, which is an epic tool which I've decided to use for the first time to actually model this out and lay this out correctly. It's going to allow the production of 25.2 gigawatts or 25,200 megawatts of power. The net result is just over 20 gigawatts of power, from after the factory has finished its production. So just under 5,000 megawatts will be consumed by the factory alone, or the power plant alone, to keep itself operational with regards to all the assemblers and that are running to actually provide the compacted coal. It works out to be 2,400 compacted coal per minute. So we should be covered for quite a way into the future with our phase 2 builds planned pretty soon. This will probably take a good 4 or 5 episodes to nut out. I'm trying to keep my episodes roughly around an hour, so they're not too long. I know I've done some really long episodes, but sometimes they're not all that easy to watch, especially when there's no commentary. So I won't comment too much. This is going to be the most talkative I will be probably from all of the episodes, but at least I'm giving sort of an understanding of where we're going and what's planned for the future. In addition, these layouts were built manually. Each set was done manually over, I think it was a whole episode that I took to do this. It was quite tedious. I'm actually going to be turning these into blueprints in the episode as we go along. So, well, not particularly this episode, in the next new episode when I move on to it. Once I've done some cleanup and planning and whatever, I'll be building out the blueprints so that we can actually replicate this, and then I can provide the blueprints down the line if anybody wants them. So there's going to be a lot of changes with regards to how this factory will work, simplifying things, and also, changing up the design quite a bit so that it fits with the starter aesthetic that I've now chosen. If we look at our starter factory with the steel or shiny look, which I quite like. I'm looking forward to yanking out these horrible staircases that I implemented. They will be nice to replace and not think about in the future. I did create them as blueprints that sit on top of each other, but I want to completely do away with any of that going forward. In addition to help with just general housekeeping, I'm going to be labeling each of my saves per the episode, which could allow me then to be able to provide the save games at each save point, which could be useful. If anybody wants those, let me know. I will then look at working out a way how to provide them going forward. So into the pods, and the concept of what I'm referring to is a multi-miner essentially on the nodes. Now the standard game, as we all know, only supports a singular miner on a node. Now with the advent of Satisfactory Calculator, that allows us to be able to expand upon that quite extensively. Now I'm going to load up a separate save game in my playset, my open world. So this is a concept I've been playing with for some time now, where the pod is a wraparound module that in multiple components that allows us to hook up 20 miners on a singular node with the help of Satisfactory Calculator. So Satisfactory Calculator, and I'll get into that shortly, we can actually mount 20 miners or oil extractors on a single node quite comfortably, and the pods that I've designed will fit around that, and on top of that to be able to hook that up easily and to be able to distribute those resources accordingly. So to start, we have our base. our base power pod shell. So this is our base shell. It's got our power hookups for each of the extractors, which we will link to. And it's got lighting and everything built into it. Oops. We've got lighting built into it using signage. Now, in addition to this, and obviously I have designed these pods in such a way that we can use them in early game when we haven't actually unlocked the signage. So this particular pod is the full integration where it's got everything that you need, including the signage, whereas I do have blueprints that are signage only, that are without the signage. So for example, there's the pod shell no lighting, and then it's actually got the lighting components where it's just the lighting that links up in front of everything. So this includes the signage for the nodes here. It does line up to a particular side of. So if we get here, there it is. So each of these power nodes actually link up to match the outputs on the modules that sit on top of this shell. Now I'll get into that shortly, but those are controlled by these. They're linked up to these power blocks. So essentially, we could link all. So it's 1 through 5. So this is for the pure layout, impure, the normal layout, and the impure layout. And then this is for our oil. So again, pure, impure, normal, and pure. So it'll be 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 15 through 20. 11 through 15, and 16 through 20. So essentially, you could connect all of number 1 on all of your pods across the region, or even your entire map for, say, all your iron ore onto a single switch. So then you can shut down number 1 miner for every pod across the map, allowing. I've done this in such a way that we can, if there is a problem with our main power source, so for example nuclear, going nuclear, we can then be able to shut down individual groupings of pod miners and extractors, so that we can reduce power without having to shut down our entire factory, essentially being able to scale up or scale down as our power needs are met or not. So a little bit of a thought of the design in that. Right, so that's the base. So that sits around the foundation that goes onto the node. So if we imagine, I'll place this first because that will be the first part you place. So imagine this is the block that you placed on your node as a lineup, and this will need to be done. Ideally, I would line it up with the grid, although it's not particularly critical. It does make it easier to line up the pod with the miners and that sort of thing. If once you place the miners using Satisfactory Calculator, that you line them up with the grid because you've already placed your foundation on the grid on the world grid map, lining that up nicely. So as you know, the world grid fits there. So if we just place it loosely, we're not going to get it lined up nicely, which makes it more difficult to line up the pod and all that sort of thing. So it is ideal that and also your miner is not going to necessarily line up with your foundation either. So the nodes are not aligned to the grid, which makes life very difficult. So we align our foundation, and then using that foundation and its location in Satisfactory Calculator, we place and then line up our miners to match that node or match that foundation. In terms of the blueprint placement, so we will attach that to our line that up nicely there. We lock it in place with H, and we nudge it into place. Now it is 21 points. We can just see it there nicely if we're floating, but you know, maybe you don't have your wings yet, or you haven't got that any unlocks for that. So it is 21 points from the place of where it's been placed. So it's placed against there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And we are perfectly centered. This places the pod in alignment with the world grid. We pop that down. And as long as we've placed our miners, then we can place our miners correctly within that and then hook them up to power. I would suggest placing your foundation, then your pod shell, and then you can place your miners within Satisfactory Calculator, or because you'll be able to at least line up correctly with it, because you may not be able to get in underneath when your miners are placed to be able to place this correctly. So again, pod first, then your miners in Satisfactory Calculator, and also your foundation that you use must be different to the concrete foundation that's used within the pod. I've used the standard concrete foundations, or asphalt foundations, I think it is. Maybe I should actually change that to allow for the standard game. There's a half foundation, yeah. I'm not too sure if that's standardized. I must be a little bit wary of that. But I will double check that and make sure there's nothing untoward on that side of things. I might update the blueprint to handle that accordingly before I share that out. So once that's placed, we've got our miners in, we hook up the power, and then we can place our processing unit on top of that. Now, just as a example, I want to show you the nice thing about the way everything's been designed. It doesn't have to be a particular direction. The top part will line up with the pillars. As you can see, we've got small pillars and large pillars. So everything will line up there. But the nice thing is, let's just tie it there. We can rotate our pod. So we've got our 4 major compass points. But it can all be rotated around that center, and you can face it because ultimately you don't want your power points now sitting against the mountain, because some nodes are quite close to rocking places. Some nodes might be a little bit difficult to fit a pod structure on, but considering the fact that you can get 20 lines, up to 20 lines of items out of a single node with this structure, I don't think you will necessarily need to use every node. Although I do plan to attempt that. It's going to be a massive undertaking to be able to process all those resources. I ultimately don't know if the game will handle it, or the Unreal Engine will handle it. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. All right, so let's load our modules. So I'm going to load oil. I'll load. That was pure oil. Let's pure oil. Let's go normal. Normal oil. Normal ore, and finally our impures. Right, so these are designed in such a way, so these ones are the no lighting options. So if I show you the blueprint, the ones with the lighting or the signage. Wait for it all to come in. Takes a little bit longer. There we go. So it's got some signage up there, so you can change your logo to say what resource you're actually pulling out, and you can update the text accordingly as you need to. So each of these signs have got the particular setup of what they max capability. I haven't gone beyond Mark 3 belts, if I think it is. These are Mark 2 currently, because they allow for pretty immediate usage, but they'll allow you to be able to go up to, yeah, this is all Mark 2, to allow for the 120 items per minute at a minimum, but it's designed to be able to go up to 480 per minute. And considering that, 480 items per minute, you're talking 9,600 items per minute out of a pure node. I mean, it's massive. It's absolutely massive. So they are interchangeable, so it's not like this lock that you have to use with a pure node. For example, for the power build, I'm going to be using this setup for a normal node, so I can provide 120 lines, 20 lines of 120 items per minute out of the normal nodes, and that'll be for 1 sulfur and 1 coal to provide the 2400 items to my coal power plant, and that will stay as is. I will never upgrade it, I will never need to, and because I'll be using Mark II miners, and that will be exactly what I need. So that'll cover exactly what I need for that power plant, and I won't need to worry about anything going forward. So we've unfortunately got some nighttime now, but as you can see, this is just a bunch of floor holes that come up from the bottom, from the miners below. Everything lines up nicely, and it is rotatable, so you can have it angled to have your outputs at a particular time, a particular point. Yes, the outputs are at the top. It is the most efficient way that I could actually get 20 units in as small a space as possible, considering these are Mark 1 designers. I wanted to be able to make this available as early game as possible to anybody who actually uses it, including myself, so that there are no limitations on that side of things. So the belts are designed to be upgraded to Mark 3. So that will obviously be a bit of a manual process that you'll need to do, but I suppose there's nothing stopping you from modifying there to have another version of the blueprint. Actually, considering that, I might actually do that automatically. So you just delete that blueprint, rehook everything up, and on you go. That obviously design means that your interface where you're coming out of this will need to be rehooked up as well, but I think that could be maybe simpler than upgrading each of the belts inside, which, while there is an access point inside, it does make it a little bit difficult to make sure you've got all your various belts and everything upgraded. So I might actually provide those blueprints or create those blueprints as well to be able to use that. So then, in terms of the normal, as we see the normal structure, we've got now 20 belts coming into 10, and we've got the merging and everything going on down there, and we've got our output to 10 lines at the top here, so all coming out into the center. Now the signage is obviously slightly different to hide these gaps and everything, but it follows the same principles, where we've got our 10 lines at the top here, or 5 lines at the top, 5 lines at the bottom, and our interface out to whichever direction we need to go. And then impure is exactly the same thing. We've got quite a bit more of a complex setup in here, where we got all the lines merging from 20 down to 5, and that comes down at the bottom here. and that's provided accordingly. The pipelines for the oil, this is a similar sort of thing. 20 come into two, is it 600? No, that's Mark 1s. It's two Mark 1 belts, Mark 1 pipes, from 20 Mark 1 pipes. For the impure, for the normal, we got 4 outputs. I think they are also Mark 1, yes, coming from Mark 1 pipes. So 4 full outputs. So actually we can check if we do load the correct pod with the labeling, you'll be able to see the output correctly. Impure. Normal. And pure. There we go. So it gives you an idea. So we got 1200 per minute coming out of total. So those pipes are actually wrong, I believe. I've made a bit of a boo-boo on that. Yes, I have made a no. Oh, that's Mark 2, yeah. Yes, I've made a bit of a mistake. Or, yeah, well, it's up to, I suppose. So, I mean, still technically it's not wrong. This can be for earlier game because obviously you unlock Mark 1 first. So you won't get your 1200 per minute, you'll only get 600 per minute, and the same year you get 1200 versus 24. And then we've got, oops, that's the wrong blueprint. That one. This one you get 24 versus 4800. These are also Mark 1. Yeah. I believe I might have downgraded them purely for the earlier game. I haven't updated the signage accordingly, but you know, that's something I will do as a double check. So those are the modules that sit on top of the base. So let me show you how that all fits together. So our shell, alright, we've got our shell lined up. And now we can select our, I'm just going to select the pure. So we'll have to look at this. It is, alright, we'll go into our pod, because that'll be more realistic in terms of how everybody would normally access it. Alright, so we've got our, which side is our power? Our power is here. It's good to use that as a starting point. Alright, so here we can see, now we can line that up. So our bottom line needs to be tied in with that. Alright, so as you can see, we've got our 2 layers, our 2 markings of where the floors are. So that's the top floor, and this is the intermediary logistics floor underneath, where we do all our combining. So our load balancing. So we just line that up nicely there. We can lock that in place. We can go, come on, we can go and have a look. Alright. So here is where, so we can decide where we want to put our output. So as you can see, that doesn't work anymore. do that again. Do that. I'm gonna just fly up there just so I can show you. So currently we've got our outputs there. You can see how everything lines up. Our floor lines up with that level there, and our top floor lines up with everything over here. So we can rotate this around. We can't rotate it anymore. Ooh, that's interesting. Is it because it's locked? I've learned something new. I wonder if that wasn't the infinite nudge mod that was doing that. So we can rotate. So you can see, oh, there's the green arrows there. So currently that's that way. It'll be to our left now. That'll be to the right, and one more click will be behind us. So I'm just going to do the behind us there. Lock that in place. And then we can see our outputs at the top there. It's interesting we can't rotate it anymore. So we place that. And everything lines up. Alright. So when we go back in here, we will be able to run our miner ports directly into our miners. It'll all hook up. And that will allow our extraction out into our logistics layer here, which will do all the magic and spit it out where it needs to go to. Now, obviously, in terms of the pure, there really isn't any magic happening because we're 20 to 20. But where we've got like the normal and the impure, we've got the logistics magic happening in there. So, and then we've still got space to run around the outside to check everything. So, if you wanted to, you'd be able to start with your miner at the bottom, and then you could have your output showing on the outside. So make it a little bit friendlier. So you can actually see your resources going up, which will be pretty cool. And that is pretty much the pod design. So that is the Satisfactory side of it. The Satisfactory calculator pod is where the little bit more complexity happens to actually get that all hooked up. So I'm going to go back to the main menu. And I'm going to get into the browser. So here we are. So just to give you a little bit of a show. So in terms of our current infrastructure, I'm going to select my save game. All right. So this is our current map. As you can see, I've got lines coming from quite far across the immediate region. Let me just display that. All right, so as you can see, we're using quite a few coal nodes. I think it's a total of 9 or 10 nodes that we're utilizing. One that goes to the starter factory over there, should I say. And then for the rest, it's going to the power plant, most of which is not currently being used because we don't have the matching sulfur. But yeah, that will be changed in the future. So with the pod implementation, what I'm thinking now is where this is a normal node over here, and then I've got a normal node of sulfur over here. I will bring the pipeline around to this side so everything can come down around this map, the side of the map, to clear out all these unnecessary lengths of belts, which that 150 spaces in my inventory will help quite nicely in cleaning that up and not losing the resources, or ending it up in crates all over the map, which will be nice. But this is where the fun part will come in, that that pod structure will sit on that particular node. If I just refresh, just so I can have a clean view. Okay, so I've got a clean view loaded up. All right, so this is a normal node. That's also a normal, but we'll only need the one. So we will place, where is my, oh, I need a save game. I was wondering where the context is. I'm going to use the pod save, just so, because I don't have any other gumph. Then, all right, let's hide that. All right, let's go back here. So the spawning of the miners. So obviously I don't have a. Actually, that's actually a good point. I've got one over here somewhere, I believe. Yes, there it is. So I have a foundation spawned on this, placed on the world grid. This is a ore node, I believe. There it is. So that is a normal ore node. I'm just going to hide my foundation just so I can get to that. We right click on our node, we spawn a miner. I'm going to select Mark II because that's what I want. Not interested in the foundation, is going to be there anyway. We select 20, and I believe it's a 5-degree rotation. And no, it's not a 5-degree rotation. Okay, so we got a clean section loaded. Actually, I've loaded up the pods save game, so I'm going to go down to here because I know I've got some. Yep, there's a foundation there. So this foundation is set up on the grid. It's aligned with the grid, so I'd be able to place my pod on that quite easily. But in this instance, I'm just going to spawn a miner. We will select Mark II, 20 with an 18-degree rotation. And place. So we've got 1, 2, 3. No. Okay, so we've got a clean section loaded. Well, actually, I'm going to find, I know I've got 2 nodes here with this pod save that have got the icons on them. Yep, there we go. So these are normal nodes. And you can see I've got a foundation that is aligned. This is aligned with the world grid. I've done that in game. So we're going to do this twice over, 10 at a time. Satisfactory calculator doesn't allow you to spawn more than 10 miners at a time on a particular node. So one of the settings that you'll need to be aware of is show node icons on miners. This will require you to refresh your game, so do it before you actually load in. Make sure that's there, because once you actually, without that setting enabled, once you spawn a miner, this icon will vanish and you wouldn't be able to do the second round. So we right click on our node, spawn a miner, We can leave it at the 2 meter, or we can make a 1 meter foundation. Doesn't really matter because we'll delete them anyway. We'll spawn the second miner, MK2 miner. We select 10 and we leave our rotation angle as 0. And what I like to do is use the materials from my containers, but in this case it doesn't really matter. So this will be for my game. I'll make sure I've got all the resources in game attached to me or in my containers so that it'll actually utilize those resources directly. So making sure I follow the game principles at least in some form or manner. And I click submit. So now we'll see we've got 10 miners generated. Where is my icon? It's hidden. There we go. Let's zoom out a little bit. Oh, there we go. I can now see it. So we right click on again. We'll spawn miner. Once again, same settings. Select 10. And this time we put an 18-degree rotation. Because if you do the math, 360 divided by 20 gives us 18. So our first rotation is at 0. We don't have to modify that. Our second rotation is going to pop the secondary miners, second set of miners in between these miners here. And we submit that. Right. So now you can see we've got an opening at each point. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hide everything except my 1 meter foundations. Oh, cancel. I'm going to delete those items. No, I don't want a doggy bag. And then I'm going to bring my foundation back into the picture. There is our foundation there. So here, what we need now is we update our position. So we've got our X, our Y, and our Z. So those are critical to what we need. Now, because we've got a 4 meter foundation, our Y will need to be, or our Z, I think it's our Z, will need to be increased. But we'll double check that. Actually, what we can do is we can download the save game, just so I can show you where we are at. Pop it into our save games. All right. Come back over to our game. And we can load up our pods calculator. Okay, so that's loaded up. Where is our, there it is. Don't know if I'm going to be able to get in under there to see. As you can see, these are our miners. Oh, there it is. H. All right. So as you can see, our miners are currently lined up almost with the center of the middle of the foundation. Now it's actually mounted on the node, and just the fact that it's loaded up nearly the center of our foundation is purely coincidental. But what we need to do is get it to sit on top of the foundation and then in line with the center, the horizontal center, not the vertical center of our foundation. So exit back to the main menu. And I'm going to get back over to the browser. Right. So if we bring our minus back up, well, actually, I think we copied the foundations of positioning. Let's just copy that again. That's X, that's Y, and that's Z. And now we will turn that off and go to our minors. So now let's just select our one minor. As you can see, Z is 756. And then I believe our other positions are different as well. So we've got I'm missing our copy paste. So copy that, and copy that. I'm having a bit of copy paste problem here. All right. Let's hide that, and then we'll go back to our minors. So update position. Now all our minors will have the same stats. So we need to update our X position. We set our Y position, and then we set the Z position. So if we do that, we'll just work with that at the moment. And submit that. Oops. So that one moved over. But what we actually need to do is do all of them the same thing. Oh, the align, I don't think the align to work. No, the align to grid doesn't work for the minors, but we select our option to move selected items position. And this is where we get our numbers. We use our numbers from our foundation. This one is a bit out of line because I did that one first, but we'll fix that one up manually. We do them all together, problem solved. Oh, actually, let's just undo all of that. Oh. All right. Spawn our miner again. I did too many undos. 10, 18. For a tour, as far as a tutorial goes, this is terrible. I do apologize. All right, so we can hide everything except our 1 meter. The miners. Try that again. Delete selected items. Nope. All right. out our foundation. Let's select our miners. We want to move them to a position. That one was 700. Our X position. And our Y position. Right. So that places all our miners in that spot. So now we do our calculator again. Export our save. We head back to the game. Now we can see they're actually sitting, they're now probably exactly, now I can't see the foundation at all. It's sitting with the middle of the foundation. So what we need to do, because it's a 4-meter foundation, we actually need to raise it by 2 meters. Switch back to the browser. All right. We've still got our miners. We want to move selected items position, and we will raise it by 2 meters. We can remove the selection. So that should get us to exactly what we want. So in summary, we've just spawned our miners, 10 at 0 rotation and then 10 at 18-degree rotation. We've highlighted all. We've gotten our positioning from our node up our foundation that's sitting on top of the node for the in line with the world grid, and then from there we have relocated our miners to those positions, but adding based on the size of the foundation we use, which I use 4 meters. It's much easier, and in terms of the pod location as well, and we align that to raise it by 2 meters, and we should be all good to go. Save that, do our final save. We'll get back to the game. And let's head on over. You can already see it's been raised up. And there it is. Our miners sitting on top of our foundation. Now, if we go to our blueprint, we load our pod shell. If that is, oh, looks like it was a good guess. All right, let's bring it over. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. Now in this case, because I'm placing it afterwards, I wasn't able to see the height. But we can see that it is not aligned, so we will just do our page down. There we go. Once it turns white, we're good. So you can see, if we go page down any further, you can see the gap is going to be too, no, gap is going to be too big. So let's do that again. not aligned at all. We should be lined up. Yes, we are. Not quite. There we go. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. I'm just going to go from the top. I can see I'm not quite lined up. This is the problem with doing it. That looks good. This is the problem with doing it before or after you do your minors. So highly recommended. Do it after you've done your minors. Oh, sorry, before you've done your minors. There we go. Build that. So now you can see everything's hooked up. I can't see my PowerPoints. It looks like I need to make a bit of a power change there. A change to the structure. There we go. And it's hooked up. This is going to be the most fiddly part. Hooking the miners up to this. So you can just see it there. You can always do the miner first and then mine it up. That's the other thing to note. These are all MK2 connections. Alright, well, I'm not going to do the whole lot to save time. What we will do now is where are my power connections? There we go. So in this case, I would have had to have raised it quite a bit higher because we've obviously sunk it lower into the ground and we can't access these power nodes. But that's okay. Alright. So let's get our module. Let's do, this is normal. Just get on top of our miner, it'll be a little bit easier. Just need to find a, there we go, an angle which we can use. So where is our extraction? I think it's on, there it is on that side, which is fine. We can always adjust that at a later date. But we've got our alignment nicely. So we've got access points all the way up. We've got access points all the way up to the levels. Put in cutouts so that you can actually access those levels quite easily. All right, now is the final piece. So we can plug our miner in. Each one. rotate those ones, but that's okay. So, well, most of these actually didn't rotate, but that means now once you provide power, all 20 miners are now going to be operating and pushing out to your extraction at the top. So you will have 20 miners producing resources. Happy days. I hope that gives you enough information as to what I'm looking to do and to achieve. So that will mean that my entire factory for my entire compacted coal power plant will be supplied by 2 nodes, producing 25.2 gigawatts of power. So that's that for that information. Let me know if you want those blueprints. I will probably be doing a few more modifications to the blueprints prior to releasing them and before I use them in game. But that'll give you a good summary of what is planned. And I also wanted to just cover off a plan I have for the power factory itself. So if we get into Modeler, this is our layout. So currently, as it stands at the moment, we have 7 lines, so 3, 6, 7. So these are currently what is currently set up in the factory. It's essentially the same structure, just now neatly designed here. And then we're going to be adding 10 more lines in the next episode. That will allow us to upgrade to that 25.2 gigawatts or 25,200 megawatts of power generation. So there's a bit of a load balancing coming in here with 6 additional lines to cover the remainder, because each additional line requires 142.86 items per minute of coal and sulfur to be able to provide to the 21 generators that are on each set of lines. That additional 22.86 over and above the 120 to not require any increased overclocking, so that I can keep my my overclocking capabilities for targeted factories rather than this general usage. You've got the additional lines that come in through a load balance belting system. These are 6 lines that come in, 4 into the center, and then there's 2 on each. There's a line of each on the outside. So it's a total of 6 lines per resource, load balanced over the entire infrastructure. So the single line, let's get up to the top so I don't make any changes. As you can see here, we've got 142.86 that comes in. That then gets divided out. Each assembler receiving 23.81 items per minute. Those get merged into a belt. 2 machines get merged into a belt, each belt, and that produces 47.62 per belt, which then gets divided by the 7 generators. 6 of them are at full capacity, whereas 1 is at 66.667, as I mentioned previously, which is only the 50 megawatt production. All of this with these 17 lines combined ultimately produces the 25.2 gigawatts of power that we need, with a perfectly load balanced system, no wastage and no underconsumption on the machinery once fully provided. Each line is balanced with the line next to it, so to cater for any overlap or any potential failures on any of the lines here or under usage. So resources can go according over the place and actually just be balanced out nicely. Additionally, what this does is it does save resources, so otherwise I'd have to have 2 splitters on each, 2 mergers and 2 4 mergers and 2 splitters on each section, combining them together because they can use that capacity and fit within the belting needs. We don't have that problem. And these will obviously be Mark II belts in between, where we got Mark I on the outside. I think currently got them as Mark I because we're not actually exceeding the capacity anyway, but these will be made as Mark II and be able to handle that load accordingly. And that's pretty much it. It's a mathematically beautiful design, and I am very happy with it, and I'm looking forward to implementing it over the next couple of episodes. As said, these components will all be done as part of blueprints. I think it'll be I'm estimating probably about 4 blueprints that we'll need to do because of the size, and I want to keep it down to a Mark I size so that it can be utilized right at early game. And that's it. So yes, I thank you for watching. I hope this episode has been informative. I hope it gives you an idea of where I'm going and what I'm planning. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment. Any sort of feedback will be fantastic. Anything that I can receive from you guys to help the process would be fantastic. Share and let me know your thoughts. Thank you very much. Bye for now.